Hi and welcome to the last game of the Swedish Championship. I'm at this point out of range from the top 3, but with a big win I can reach top 10 at least. Unfortunately, I'm up against Dennis, who, correct me if I'm wrong, was a part of the team 2 years back when Sweden won the ETC. So, yeah. Regardless, he is a very good player, and his list is a relatively hard matchup for me, so the odds doesn't speak for a big win for me this game, but we'll see what happens. The deploy is classic, and we got the breakthrough scenario, which also is not in my favor. For this game I rolled the Comet, Thunderbolt, Lightning Storm and Blizzard. He only had totems, so not much to roll for there. He chose side, and we alternated deploying for a while, but he had so many drops it was no use trying after a while, so I went for first turn, and at least I got him to deploy 2 chaff units on the wrong side of the board. Most of my army went on the right flank, with the chariots and raiders protecting the left. I would quickly come to regret my deploy, but here is what it looked like at least. From my right, a bolt thrower, the blades, another bolt thrower, level 1, guards with the general, BSB with level 3 and a bolt thrower behind, harpies, corsairs, a chariot, raiders and the other chariot. And from his left is a giant, a jabberwock behind, then another giant, a chariot, one more chariot, a pig chariot, dogs with 2 more chariots behind. In the ruins are his lords in the Wildhorn unit with jabberwock and chariot character beside. Then he have a pig, and furthest to the right another pig, and then his last dogs. He placed his forest between our forces, and more than half his units vanguard up. Being a bit prepared at least, I've taken that in consideration and deployed against the board edge. So the plan for this game was to hang back as long as possible, which shouldn't be that long considering his speed. I figured that his chariots had to be a priority, since I couldn't afford to waste any bolt thrower hits on the Minotaur's ward save. With Dark Rain I didn't have many turns to make the shooting count either. Since he has ambushing units, I felt I had to keep a chariot on the left to at least have some chance of negating his breakthrough. I start by charging his middle units of dogs with a harpoon chariot, and he flees. Then my other chariot gets the chance on the same dogs and push them about half an inch from the table edge. Both chariots of course fail. Other than that, I move the raiders to shoot at his other dogs. I also realized my mistake in the deploy, where my bolt thrower blocked the passage between the huge golden impossible and the board edge. Instead of going around, I take the stupid and stubborn road and plan to reform the corsairs to squeeze between in another turn. For magic I get Thunderbolt off on a chariot, and only doing 1 wound I think. I then get the Comet, but he decides he has to scroll it, so at least the scroll gone. With Dark Rain, the shooting doesn't do much more than killing a dog. He begins by underestimating the BSB and charges a chariot in by itself. Then he takes a chance and flank charge my harpoon chariot in the flank with his dogs. Both make it in, and then he starts with all his sneaky stuff. His dogs rally. Another dog unit shaft the BSB in case the chariot fails. Then he moves his giants so that I practically will have to charge one of them with the blades and then overrun off the board, leaving the guards to fend for themselves. After much measuring, he have moved up everything to stand in a line through his forest and water piece, so I still will suffer heavy penalties on my shooting. For magic, he puts distracting on his chariot, that is in combat, which I let him have. He also gets hard target on his lord's unit, since I prioritize dispelling the plus d6 extra charge range instead. In combat, my chariot kill a dog and stick to reform, while the altar shrug off his chariot and the BSB crush it easily. My turn, and my raiders charge the flank of the dogs, and my blades charge the closest giant, since otherwise he can take the bolt thrower and charge a bunch of chariots in them instead. The altar charged the chaffing dogs, and I try to chaff his lords with a harpies. I say try, since I did a newbie chaffing mistake, only blocking one of his lords. For magic, I think I just fail, but for shooting, I bring down one of the chariots. In combat, the blades kill the giant and overrun off the board, which unfortunately was his plan all along. Next, both his dog units die, and I only overrun with the raiders. On his turn, my chaffing fails terribly, as the harpies fail a terror test from the Jabberwock. Next, he charges great weapon Minotaur and 2 chariots into my BSB. And I think he has a decent charge range on all 3, but only makes it with 1 chariot, which is a bit lucky. The Jabberwock gets the harpies, and his other Jabberwock gets a long charge on my bolt thrower, together with the giant. Next, the chariot get into the other bolt thrower. One of his ambushes get on the board, and he puts them where my blades left the board, to force me to return far away from the action. For magic, he gets distracting off in his on his great weapon Minotaur, who I'm too afraid of to charge anyway. In combat, he destroys both bolt throwers, and the BSB gives this new chariot the same treatment as the last. So, my turn again. Here he is convinced that I will just roll him up with the altar, but I'm still too afraid of his Minotaurs, so I charge his Jabberwock instead, aligning to overrun into his pig chariot. The blades get on behind his lines, and the chariot and raiders will try to harass his chariot character, while the rest stays, except for the oracle, who bolt for cover. For magic, I think I get Thunderbolt off on one of his lords, doing 1 wound, and then put Blizzard on the same one. Shooting kills a pig, and in combat the BSB kill the Jabberwock and overrun into the pig chariot. Being too afraid of dangerous terrain, I place the altar as to not be in the swamp, and as if to punish me for my cowardice, the wounded Minotaur Lord now sees some millimeter of the altar's back corner, which it hadn't if I had placed it in the swamp. Of course, he charges in and also brings a Jabberwock to the fight. His chariot at my back ranks try a charge at the last bolt thrower, but fail. His second ambushes get on the board at my lower left corner. For magic, I dispel everything and use the scroll when he gets distracting on his lord. In combat, he pops Potion of Speed and do 3 wounds to the BSB in a challenge. The BSB does about the same back, and then stick. He reforms his chariot as to get as long range as possible between it and my blades. So my turn, and I begin by charging his chariot character with my chariot. He flees, and I chase it through the combat with my raiders. Now the blades can see it, so I think, what the hell, I try to chase it off the board and then redirect. He doesn't run far enough, and I failed the damn redirect. So the guards charge his Jabberwock in combat with the BSB and need a 6 or 7, but does not make it. My other chariot goes to deal with the ambushers. It's magic, and I get Lightning Storm off on his Wildhorn unit, killing a bunch. Think I shot some with the Bolt Thrower too. In combat I take the last wound from his lord, but it's not enough to make him break. It's his turn, and here comes the next Minotaur. He charged the giant into the last Bolt Thrower and shafts the blade with a pig, and the guards he shafts with a chariot. His ambushers try a long charge on my chariot but fail, and his chariot character rally. He gets the distracting totem off on the Minotaur, and in combat the altar is killed by the impact hits, so it didn't matter anyway. This is a bit painful to watch, but I see now that he should have overrun due to frenzy, but didn't, which means a huge steal in the last turns. So, turn 5, and the blades charge the pig, while the guards take the parked chariot. The raiders charge his BSB's bunker in the back, but they flee. The chariot on the left charge his ambushers and get in. We are running out of time at this point, so I forgot to reform the Corsairs to get more shots off on the giant. Next I get Thunderbolt on his BSB's unit, but I'm not sure. It's hard to see for that damn gold thing. So, shooting does some wound to the giant. In combat the blades kill the pig, and the guards kill the chariot. My chariot break his ambushing unit, and they run off the board. It's his turn, and he gets 2 chariots, a Jabberwock, and the warlord into my guards. The giant charges the Corsairs and takes another wound on the stand and shoot. The BSB's units rally. The BSB's unit has landed in a spot so that his chariot and warlord that's in the front only can clip the corners, which is awesome for him, but not for me. His remaining ambushers goes for the breakthrough and is happy with that. For combat his warlord eat my general, since my champ and his chariot is in a challenge. My lord does 2 wounds before he dies, and then he mauls my unit. I still got 2 ranks, so I'm steadfast at least. His giant kills a bunch, and I think I got it down to 1 wound at this point. The Corsairs stick. So, my last turn, and first off I charge his BSB beast unit with the raiders. He flees and pops out the other side, taking some DTs. Next I want to check if I can conga the blades to negate his breakthrough. We measure it, and it turns out I'm about half a centimeter short. Magic, and I get Thunderbolt in, killing the BSB and the remaining 3 of its unit. For combat I failed to do any wounds, more or less, so he breaks both guards and the Corsairs. He doesn't catch the Corsairs, so in his last turn he gets them, and that's it. Things got a bit quick in the last turn, but that's what happened more or less. A rather big thing perhaps was that I at some point shot down his general without mentioning it. He was in the same unit as the BSB, but I can't remember when. I'm sorry. So, in the end it turned out to be a 15-5 loss, including him winning the secondary objective. Besides the deploy, I don't think I made that many mistakes, but the small ones I did had big impact. That we missed the frenzy overrun on his warlord was extremely annoying, since it probably had made the difference between life and death for both my general and the tower guards. But in the end, this is how we played it, so it's a loss for me. for the tournament overall. I'm not happy, but neither am I that disappointed either. I ended up at place 24 out of 62 people or something. Biggest thing I'm disappointed about is that I couldn't keep my cool for all the games, and especially it showed especially against the ogres, where I lost my nerve altogether. In the other games I think I played fairly well. My biggest weakness, I should say, has been my own deploy, which actually only worked against the orcs and the vampires. So that's something I need to look into. If I should evaluate the list, I think I worked rather well, and had I used it properly, it was only the ogres who probably would have caused me some trouble anyway. But regardless, I think it needs another tweak to compete with really tough lists. It's hard with the Dread Elves, but hopefully the hardest list will get toned down, and I will try a dual priest altar list for my next Dread Elf game. So, next bigger thing for me is a one-day tournament in late October, and until then I think I will fool around with some other armies. So, see you another time.